The overarching strategy for the city in response to this unprecedented drought is twofold. One, as the City of Cape Town, we are committed to ensuring that we augment our existing supply. We need the citizens of Cape Town to save and to contribute to as much savings as possible. In terms of the state of our dams and based on rainfall patterns, this week our dams were at 36.2%, and then the figure right at the end, that is our consumption. So average consumption for this past week has been about 602 million litres of water per day. That's just us as Cape Town. There's been progress, and we say there's been progress because if we look at our consumption earlier in 2017, as Cape Town we were consuming about 1 billion litres of water per day. And so in a period of a couple of months, we've been able to reduce our consumption to about 600 million litres of water per day. What is important to note is that the pink line is the rainfall, the average rainfall for the year 2015. And the brown maroonish line is the rainfall for 2016. And so you can see that massive drop already. And sadly, the orange line is where we are right now, 2017. By looking at this graph and also looking at the previous slide of dam levels, it is quite clear that we are going to require at least 3 years of above average rainfall levels to ensure that our dams can recover from this kind of continuous low levels of rainfall. So as part of the water resilience program and the response to our drought, we did a range of scenario planning. That scenario workshop session basically got us to 3 particular scenarios. The science around weather patterns and rainfall is largely out of sync with the reality. And if we had to base our plan entirely on weather predictability patterns, we might not necessarily be in a safe space, and therefore grind it out, ramp it up were things that we believe still put us at great risk, and therefore we had to opt for the new normal. And essentially what the new normal sets out is that we understand that we are being impacted by things like climate change, like every other major city is in the world, and then we cannot rely on substantial levels of rainfall going into the future, and we need to diversify our water solutions. The new normal has then resulted in our water resilience program. It's made up of our disaster management program, our emergency program that looks at immediate water solutions, the tactical program, and the strategic program. Now, the strategic program is probably the most important as part of the new normal because it looks at how we adapt to water scarcity, how we build in household mitigation and adaptation, both in the household and the business sector. As a response to that water resilience program, we ensured that it would be important to have external peer review. The city was recognized internationally and received a reward for our water efficiency and water demand management plans. And essentially, the official authority of raw water supply lies with the National Department of Water and Sanitation, which is why we have, from the very beginning, roped them in as a key partner to ensure that we get the sufficient support to address different components of our water resilience plan. So there's ongoing work, and that's just some of the things that we have requested their assistance with. What is the city doing to bring on that additional 500 million litres of new water, should I say? And this is part of our tactical response. There are different tranches that we are planning as part of the new water supply. The immediate tranche looks at adding about 92 million litres of water to our system, and it will include temporary desalination plants, and these are largely land-based in the form of containers, permanent desalination plants that will probably be placed in the Cape Town harbour because much of the existing infrastructure is there, And then we will look at water reclamation, which is essentially just the treatment of wastewater for drinking purposes. Then the first tranche, after the immediate tranche, is looking at adding about 110 million litres of potable supply to the system. We already extract water from the Atlantis aquifer. We're looking at maximizing that and obviously tapping into other aquifers that have not been utilized to date. And then also water reclamation. Tranche 2 looks at tapping into the same sources and obviously incrementally increasing that yield. And then the extreme tranche will also look at large-scale desalination at those two different sites, which is being Gordons Bay and Cape Town Harbour as well. So that's just to give you an overview of the entire water supply, where and how we intend on extracting and yielding additional water. As part of that different tranches of water schemes that I've just touched on, we have further prioritized which ones we will be opting for initially. And out of that list of about 19 different schemes, we are going to be prioritizing 7 of those 19. Those 7 are in different stages of either procurement or execution, and then the other 12 will be implemented incrementally over time. In terms of our disaster declaration, which we declared in March of this year, we did obtain assistance from national government, about 20 million with conditions, and so it should purely be utilized for groundwater extraction. On to the big question, because it's very clear that all of this obviously costs a lot of money. And how exactly does the City of Cape Town intend on financing all of this? And most importantly, what is the impact on consumers like yourselves? We initially did an internal assessment of existing funding. So that entailed us cutting back on budget where there were nice to haves. And through that exercise, in addition cutting vacancies, through that exercise, we've been able to acquire about 1.8 billion rand, 1.9 billion rand from that exercise. The city is also in the process of trying to access and obtain concessionary funding from different developmental banking institutions. Going forward, we will have to reprioritize our capital budget, and we potentially are going to have to look at the cost of water. Now, I know this is a very uncomfortable and controversial and sticky point. It's quite evident if you look at the price of water in comparison to other commodities that that commodity is still largely subsidized. As part of our modeling work, the city is also looking at redesigning our tariffs to ensure that they are equitable, but also that they are far less subsidized. Now, the reason why we opted for temporary and permanent desalination plants is to ensure that we are a responsible government, so that if the rain does come next year, that we aren't stuck with white elephants that we cannot afford to maintain. And this is just to give you an indication that formal houses or formal dwellings use about 55% of the city's potable water supply. Apartments and complexes consume about 9.5%. Informal settlements, despite them making about 15% of our entire population within the city, they only consume around 3.6% of our water supply, and at most times 5% maximum. Industry within Cape Town has been very efficient and quite a leader in water efficiencies. They consume 4.2%. Unfortunately, water restrictions will probably be around for still quite some time, and we have been very, very grateful around how Cape Townians have responded to the water restrictions. That's just to give you an indication of the latest levels of restrictions. Level 5 water restrictions, it includes that 87 litre per day requirement, because that 87 litre day requirement based on a population of Cape Town gets us to that magic 500 million litre target that we are trying to obtain. Some of the other things that we are doing is we are encouraging businesses and industry to tap into our treated effluent. So what is the city going to do further to enable decreased consumption? We are at the point where we haven't reached that 500 million litre mark, and there might be consumption overload, fatigue around savings. And the city obviously is going to try and be far more innovative to ensure that we as Cape Town can move to that 500 million litre mark. So we're doing active leak responses, water management devices which are set at a particular threshold, looking at pressure management, and this is something that we have escalated or increased over the last couple of weeks. Then we have ongoing education and awareness sessions with high consumers, particularly high sectors where there is high consumption, and we try and bring about the message that water efficiencies and water savings doesn't have to be a complex thing, and it is not necessarily expensive. We've got an education and awareness unit within the water and sanitation department, and they go out to schools and other organizations. Just to give you a sense of the reticulation system that we manage. The city's water reticulation system is about 11,000 kilometers long, and our sewer system is about 9,300 kilometers long. That's the extent of the system that we manage. And with that extensive reticulation system, our water losses have substantially reduced over the last couple of years. Many of you have been aware that we have been reducing pressure in the system since the beginning of the year. That's just another indication of the pipelines that we've replaced for the previous financial year. We've been able to substantially reduce the amount of burst pipes. Around 200,000 water demand management devices at different properties in Cape Town. We have a water inspectorate team that go out and respond to water contraventions, issue the necessary fines. As part of a responsible government, we have to plan for all eventualities. And even though I said earlier on that we are committed to bringing on new supply to our system, we have to also ensure that we have emergency and contingency measures in place. This plan was communicated with the public in September, and it is made up of 3 phases. The restrictions or water rationing phase. Phase 2 entails part of the water reticulation system being active and a large part of the reticulation system not being active. As part of phase 2, we plan on 200 water collection points across the city where residents will be able to obtain or access a minimum of 25 litres per person. Phase 3 is the entire system is not active, and the residents of the city will have to solely depend on receiving water from different water collection points. This is exactly why the savings is so crucial, because by saving more water and ensuring that we are far more sensitive around how we consume water, we will be able to avert phase 2 and phase 3. The city cannot do all of this on its own. We need ambassadors, we need people to amplify our message, so there's greater awareness around this topic and around the response that is required. And therefore the City of Cape Town has designed a special portal on our website just for water. When you go and take a look at our dashboard on our website, you'll be able to see that the day 0 figure right on the top of the dashboard will be changing, because when we increase our implementation rate of our new water schemes, that will also obviously push day 0 even further. So those are all things that you can access, you can share with your networks wherever you are. This is just to give you a sense of the kind of material that's available on our portal. And so we've designed a tourist or summer campaign called Save Like a Local. And essentially what we're trying to tell tourists is, please come to our city, our beautiful city, explore the wonders of Cape Town, but save like a local. The city is doing all that it can to respond to what is a protracted drought. We count on you to assist us. We are obviously open to ideas and suggestions. We are not we are entering a new realm. Some of the schemes that we are implementing has never been implemented in Cape Town before, like desalination. So we are learning a lot, but we are hoping to take those learnings to ensure that Cape Town can truly become a water sensitive city for the future. Thank you.